better. Let me just start. It won't take me this long.
Very good.
Okay. Welcome to the March 21st Educational Programs and Services Committee meeting. We're going to start tonight with the approval of the February 15th UPS minutes.
Make a motion.
All right. Are there any questions or comments? Discussion?
Yes, yeah, I'll second a lot.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
All right.
I'll second you.
Motion approved. We'll move on. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Now, next up, TSI updates. Please provide
I
that.
think we're going to flip the agenda just a little bit because of I have to make a, there's a student.
Okay, sounds
Sorry.
good. So we're fine. So which one are we doing first?
Early intervention.
Early intervention update. All right.
Yes.
Go for
so,
it.
All right, thank you. So I think I reported on early intervention, maybe not last year, but in one of our committee meetings. So I just want to kind of run through again, like what the purpose of transition meetings are, and then also just provide some data and information about some students transitioning into kindergarten through early intervention. So if some of you may not be aware, we have early intervention transition meetings through the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit every year, preparing us for students who have IEPs through early interventions transitioning to kindergarten. So we meet with parents to kind of get a sense of what the students' needs are, parent concerns, and then explaining to parents the transition to kindergarten, addressing any of their questions or concerns. So that's the purpose, and I'll kind of share how many meetings we've had and how many parents attended. So the importance of early kindergarten registration. In order for us to be able to reevaluate students, we need parents to register their kids. And in the next slide, you'll kind of see, what that process is. And then reevaluation support kindergarten programming. And that kind of gives us a sense of, what students' needs are, what level of special education they might need, and the special education supports that they may need.
Can I just interject?
Yes, please.
I think it's really important because part of those conversations are about programming, and I know Amy will talk a little bit about it, but it has a budgetary impact because we're not exactly sure what type of programming. And so sometimes that early intervention program transitions in, and that's why we often talk about early intervention and what that looks like, because programmatically, there may be some fiscal decisions we have to make based on the number of kids who are coming to us. And sometimes we don't know that until,
Right.
sometimes it's early and sometimes it's August.
Right.
I think it helps too, just to add to that, is until they register, we cannot do anything further. We can't reevaluate them, which gives us a very specific and clear understanding of what their identified needs are as they enter school age, which is very different from early intervention.
And Amy wrote, fully registered. So we're making some speculation about
On the next slide.
what we
I
know.
wasn't on that.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. So, yes, and I'm sorry I'm talking fast. I have to excuse myself in a minute to take care of a situation. So in any case, yes, they are both correct. And so, some of our students may require a higher level of support, like in a supplemental autistic support classroom, while others might need just speech language support, which is on an itinerant level, minimal time away from the general education setting. And as Andrea mentioned too, early intervention is fluid. We get what we get in December, January, and February, but some families may move out of the school district, others might move in, and that happens in the summer too, from other IUs. So it's difficult to plan for kindergarten. We do the best we can, but as Andrea also mentioned, we have budgetary things that we need to consider. So anyway, so I am on this slide. So as you can see up there, we had 6 transition meetings. They were held in December, January, and February. These are coordinated through the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. So they're the ones, really, it's a transition meeting. So they are transitioning these children from early intervention to school age. So it's kind of like speed dating.
Head Start, no?
No,
Okay.
not necessarily. I think,
How do they know, how does the MCIU know
right,
who's going to come at all?
right. So they are identified through the MCIU. And parents have options of whether or not they want their children to attend preschool programs. So some of our kids coming in might receive early intervention services, but they don't attend preschool or daycare. And that's a parent's choice. We can't, they can't tell parents that their children have to do this, that, or whatever. It's not school aged, it's not, in a situation where we have, compulsory, you have to do this, that, or whatever. So in any case, we had 40 transition meetings total between both buildings. 22 children will be entering at Marlboro at this time to kindergarten. 11 are fully registered, 25 at Hereford, 15 fully registered, and then 47 total. That number will change. It'll either go up or down, and we have no control over that. Kind of like when students move in from other school districts. We don't know when that could happen. We don't know what their needs are going to be. So,
And because a family could choose not to send their child to kindergarten.
right.
They could keep them in early intervention a little bit longer before fully registered.
Correct. Yes.
And you're saying that these 47, if they enter, no, 40 transition, so 47, and they're
Currently in the
special
net-
ed, and you know the level of services that they're going to.
So we do to a point. We are provided with documents through the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit for their current special education needs. We review those, and then the importance of registering them as soon as possible is so that our school psychologists can reevaluate them.
Okay.
And that gives us a better sense of what their programming needs will be when they start kindergarten.
Okay. But
And
what
there are
we-
some of our students that if so, as Amy was saying during the transition meetings, if they may be getting a related service like OT
Right.
or PT, some of those things, and maybe speech along with that, we don't necessarily have to or make a determination that we're going to reevaluate them before they ever start. Those would be some of the kids that we follow the timeline of when reports are due and do the reevaluation once they're in kindergarten. It's the ones I think Amy's talking about, the higher level students that we really try to get reevaluated before they ever start in school.
So for budgeting, we're going to budget for the level of services they were receiving.
Well, so again, it's a fluid situation. And so early intervention, the testing that they do for kids to qualify them is different than school age because they are two different entities. So sometimes students who, have certain, like developmental delay is something that I will share. That's not a school age disability category. So any student who is categorized with a developmental delay through the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit will be reevaluated either prior to them starting kindergarten or right away. We will issue a permission when they start because we need to determine whether or not they continue to qualify. And if they do qualify, what school age disability do they qualify under?
And the reason she says that, to add to it, is we do our December 1st child count. So there has to do with funding based on the number of special education students. So being that that is not a school age disability, they're the kids either in the spring or within those first couple of months of school. If they qualify, they would qualify with a school age disability, therefore we can count them in our count when we say there are 502 or 495 students. If they're developmental delay, we can't count them or include them.
Do you
Yeah, so
happen
it's-
to know, you have 47, what does that compare to like years past? Is that in the ballpark?
It's in the ballpark, but it fluctuates. We get kids, again, some of these students will move. Some of these students, their parents will register them in a private school. Over the summer, we will have students who move in from other IUs or students who weren't identified, who clearly have a disability that now we need to reevaluate or evaluate that child essentially to determine what their disability is and what we need to do to program for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I apologize, I have to excuse myself to deal with something. Let me back.
If I could just weigh in, and early intervention is particularly challenging for students with more complex needs because classroom size and teacher caseload is prescribed. They can only have a maximum number of students. And so oftentimes, Carol and Amy have to weigh, for students with autism, what is the level of complexity? Because we know those caseloads aren't as big as things like specific learning disabilities. And so, very often the number of classrooms is derived really, you'll see more at elementary if, Hereford is where we have those classrooms because of that. And I would say, you asked the question about enrollment compared to previous years, that number is significantly higher than when I was the director of special ed.
Yeah, and so I'm here since 2013. She's right. It is clearly higher. Now, mind you, some of these kids in that 47, I don't know where it went, I took it off the screen. In that 47 are speech-only students with a speech disability. That's a big difference if you take that number down, but overall, this is definitely higher than it was 4 years ago or 6 years ago. There are definitely more kids coming through early intervention.
Okay.
Was there a big jump when we went to full-time kindergarten?
No, that doesn't really impact it, and I say that because they're coming from early intervention. So I don't necessarily see when we meet, Amy and I, and we review sort of the students that she's getting through early intervention, the numbers seem similar to kids participating in programs, which are typically your kids that have higher needs versus kids that get speech or just get OT or maybe some instructional areas. I don't see really a difference there. It's just overall.
I would say, my observation, haven't been the director since full day K, but, we're evaluating more kindergartners just, who maybe not even through EI, more primary age students, because their parents are sending them. We have them all day, they have the benefit of time and instruction in a full day environment, which was the goal of full day K. But it's easier for us to say, in an evaluation, they've had the benefit of that instruction, and so now there might be something underlying that's preventing their access to those kinds of skills, literacy skills, math skills. And so, I would say that has increased, but not necessarily from.
And I would also say, in general, our kids that are coming from early intervention, I think it was Andrea mentioned that some of these kids, the parents can determine they still have the option to remain an additional year. A lot of times between going out and viewing them, early intervention programs and school age, both wonderful, but they're very different. When you enter school age, truly, when we communicate with parents, the sooner we can get the kids that have those high-level needs, and we'll verbalize that. We want them there. We want them there all day. The program is just different, obviously. So we do try and push for that to get our kids here sooner.
All right.
Fresh, the slides.
So which one do you want to go to? We start at the top? Can we go back to the TSI update?
Sure.
Okay.
Our high school administration could not be here tonight, and in our discussions with them, there wasn't anything really substantive for them to present. Our end of our third quarter is upon us, and so there is an expectation that in April, they present updates on all mid-year goals as well as third quarter. I can tell you that if they were here, they would share, they've been conducting student groups based on our 2 new factors, because if the committee, if I could remind you, they have to present a new plan because of the career benchmarks and because of attendance. They have elected to really engage students, which I think is wonderful, because those are 2 things that kids are able to very easily talk about. Your Act 339 artifacts, and why are you coming to school? What would help? And so those meetings are happening. There was a TSI stakeholder staff meeting, not very much substance. They did talk about in those meetings the intervention tools that were being used and made some recommendations through the curriculum construction area, and Kim was working with them. But they should be able to articulate that in April.
Has there been any improvement on the attendance data that they were working on?
So
Yeah, they were getting it lined up, right? No, not really, okay.
So what we did learn, or what we do suspect, in talking with Mr. Livingood from the Western Center, there was some concern of double reporting of attendance. And so there was a meeting that was slated for Tuesday with Mr. Amsler, Mrs. Cenovitis, and Mr. Livingood to talk about that. I'm not saying that's the reason the data was bad, but it would be a factor we needed to rule out.
When you say double attending, you mean saying they were?
So like,
Absent
Double
twice.
twice, yeah,
Same day.
absent twice?
Yeah.
Okay.
so we reported an AM student absent, and then they reported an AM student absent. So when we extract that
Yeah.
data,
Okay. So it's still.
but I can't tell you 100% that that is what happened. It could just be that that data was student absences.
This is the tech center and Upper Perk. Do you use a different, use the same
We use
attendance
Skyward.
program? Skyward.
Yeah.
So just to finish the thought, if it turned out to be something like that, would that really help us? Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine because, some of that truancy is 10% of the school year. So,
Okay.
yes.
I just
If
saying
in
that-
fact that is true, that is helpful. I do suspect, having looked at attendance data historically, there are kids who fit that profile of being absent more than 10% of the school year.
Right.
Especially students with disabilities, right? So not every student who goes to the Western Center has a disability, so it wouldn't have factored into that attendance data, but it is a factor. And so they were investigating that with Mr. Livingood.
The only additional piece I would add, when I spoke with the high school staff, they basically said due to the outages, they weren't able to gather current data. We also pushed the Lincoln benchmark back at least a week because of the technology outage. So they were waiting to have some more current data. The end of the quarter is 4/3, and they did indicate the staff meeting as well as meeting a second time with students coming up. So there's movement and there's progress.
Makes sense.
Thank you. All right, material adoption.
So I feel like there should be a drum roll. Thank you. We've been working really hard as a K-5 science team for the full year, learning about what NGSS standards are, evaluating different products to find one that is best for the new STEEL standards. So when Pennsylvania adopts national standards, they make them their own somehow. In this case, they changed colors and they added an environmental sustainability strand that STEELS does not have. So we had to find resources that were well aligned with national NGSS standards as well as PA STEEL standards. After looking at least 3 full programs, as well as one that we'd had through using FOSS for a number of years and also some kindergarten products that we adopted when we went to full day K, we decided to go with an Amplify product. And Carol, if you want to click on that Amplify for me, I'll show you the webpage. It is policy that we put our resources on display here at the Ed Center for 30 days. I can promise you on Monday I will have something here. I had a difficulty connecting with our rep. I know that's shocking. But we should have both things to show you online as well as some print materials for teachers or for anybody to look at. What's different about NGSS STEELS and Amplify is they call it phenomena-based science. So the kids will be actually doing experimentation, which sounds really fancy with a lot of things, but sometimes they're just very simple experiments, things like pushes and pulls and using magnets and things like that. Is it not connected?
No.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay, we'll work on it.
Okay. If you just go to Amplify Science, it's amplify.com and then programs. So we also took the time to look at every single unit and to look at the time frame that is available for teaching science in K through 5, and sometimes that's limited. And so we weren't able to adopt the full program. I can share with you by grade level that in kindergarten, they're going with 2 of the 3 units. One is called Needs of Plants and Animals, and the other is Pushes and Pulls. I'll make this available in the notes as well. In first grade, they're going with 2 of the 3, Animal and Plant Defenses and Light and Sound. In second grade, they're going with 2 of the 3, Plant and Animal Relationships and Changing Landforms. The teachers who did this were very cognizant of materials. Now, Amplify sends all the materials, but you have to be very aware of how long things take to set up and how intricate things are, and do you need water, and do you need coffee grounds, and all these things. So they chose things that would be really engaging for students and also very manageable for the teacher. In third grade, we went with 3 of the 4. Inheritance and traits, environment and survival, and weather and climate. We know weather and climate comes up a lot on PSSAs. That used to be a 4th grade test. In 25-26, they're moving it to 5th grade, but we still want to make sure we're providing a lot of that information. In 4th grade, we went with 1, 2, 3 of the 4. I had to count, my commas are off. Energy conversions, Earth's features, and then waves, energy, and information. And then in 5th grade, we're going with 2 of the 4, the Earth systems and ecosystem restoration. Once we chose all of those, I mapped out what standards we might be missing K to 5. There are individual K, 1, 2, 3, and 4 standards, and then there's a K to 2 strand and a 3 to 5 strand. So we had to check by grade level, what are we missing, and then in those grade bands, is there anything that we were missing? The number one thing that popped up was sustainability, environmental sustainability, because that's not part of the national standards. So to find that in a pre-programmed program is sometimes difficult to do. So what we've done as a group is we've looked at how to brainstorm and fill those gaps. You'll notice in 5th grade, they only did 2 of 5 units because they have some things that work for some of the standards that we weren't able to hit that they'll be bringing in. Those are materials from Scholastic. There's nothing that's, they're mostly teacher-created materials. So I don't have those to show you. I can certainly show you these units that are here. I can show you the written units that they have for that, but not necessarily the system that they're using, such as Amplify. We didn't miss a whole lot of standards across K to 5, and I think that the students will really enjoy being engaged in science. I don't know how much you've been following social media this year, but Alexis has done a really nice job of capturing some of the hands-on science things going on in the middle school and even in the high school. That's been the switch with STEELS. They want kids experiencing science rather than working on worksheets. Not that there's anything wrong with that, there's a time and a place, but it's much more engaging to learn by doing. And that's what the STEELS has set out to accomplish, and then in Pennsylvania through the STEELS standards. So all of this comes with a price tag, and I have, see, I will tell you, I had Drew print my budget report for me, and we did budget for this. So I have just under, what's that? I know, this is already planned for every year when we put that together, and I showed you that with the curriculum review cycle, so we don't have these big bumps. This is the quote that I have from August. It's very close to the latest quote that's stuck in my email. The last number I remember is 240, but we're very close in here. What that gets us is full professional development. It gets us all of the materials. So the teachers are going to have to make room for totes. They're very concerned about where they're going to fit that. I say, get rid of those old FOSS kits. So they have room for some totes. A lot of these materials are online. There is a student journal. And the Amplify representative has been really great. She'll say, Kim, I don't know if you wanted to spend money on that. You know, let's see if the students need it, if they were missing it, or if we need to add it back in later, we certainly can. So we're still trying to crunch those numbers to make them less large, because that seems like a lot. I did check with Drew, I checked my budget report, I still have $400,000 in the account. That will go toward this and some other purchases I'll be showing you in just a minute.
Is that a purchase for next year?
That is a purchase.
Is that a budget number for next year?
Yes. No. It gets spent with this year's budget.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have it ready.
I feel better now.
Yeah. No, that's for this year. That's why I'm saying I checked my current budget. We always do that, and it's projected in the same year that we do the review. So after a 30-day display here in the Ed Center, and I'll have a computer there, people can look online at different things as well. If there's been no objections, I'd like to put it on the full board agenda for approval at that time. I think it will be the April 24th meeting, which I'm not sure it's a regular business meeting.
Looked into this company to see if they have any political affiliations, like social initiatives, like DEI, or they?
I have
is
not,
that-
no.
Okay, because it is, on their mission, it says that they are connected with DEI. I would look into that, I would question that. A lot of universities are chucking DEI initiatives, so I would take a look in there and see.
Okay. When we looked at the materials, I absolutely will honor your request and do that. When we looked at the materials, it was hard to find any political leaning in there because it's basically K through 5 and looking at some of just the factual information, things like plants and animals and changing landforms.
Amplify is committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, which is a different A acronym there. But,
Yeah, I just really feel like that means that all kids can access it and that students maybe will see friends in the books that look like them or online.
And I have no problem with
Yeah.
that, but the DEI initiative specifically is divisive, it's not inclusive.
I think that's your opinion, not a fact, so let's just stick with that. I have 2 questions.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Have you reached out to any colleagues or anybody you network with on anybody that uses this already to
So-
get feedback from them?
We're actually ahead of a lot of districts in terms of implementing NGSS because we don't start the testing until 25, 26, and we don't actually have to have the standards in place till 24, 25, which is next year, but most people are reviewing and adopting next year. So lots of people use Amplify. We use Amplify for, oh gosh, help me.
Social studies.
No, DIBBLS. Like some of our testing platforms are through Amplify. So we're familiar with the platform and the company through their assessment platform, but there aren't any local districts that I remember, JP, that are using it, but I can go back to an email as soon as I can get
If you
it.
could.
Yeah, but because I know we asked that question, that's always part of our review to say, is anybody else using this? Who
Right.
can we talk to? Can we go see it? And at that point, I don't know that anybody was, but I will go back and check. So there's 2 questions. One is DEI and one is using it. Okay.
And then I got one more.
Go ahead,
So
yes.
you kind of answered the one question and that was, you brought up, there's a lot of hands-on supplies and
Yeah.
stuff that the students are going to be using and the teachers don't have to pay for that.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
So the 238 covers the first year of implementation? or
Great question.
And there's a follow-up cost to
There's-
replenish or?
The kits for the students to engage with have about 72 experiments. So one of the ways we know we'll do science in K-5 is in small groups. So we may get 2 to 3 years out of this, potentially even 4, depending on how they stagger that out. So those kits are the most expensive things as a part of this. The online platform costs a little bit as well. The journals cost a little bit. So we'll really be looking to see, do we need the journals? Because we could print the pages. Again, there's a cost for printing too. But we want to take a look at that. But this large chunk, you'll not see that next year. You'll see a figure, but it won't be anything
I was
like
just
that.
curious about that.
Yeah. That was a big question because she said you can split kits between teachers and that's so hard. So we want them to have what they need, but we can maximize the usage. I think we'll get at least 3, if not 4 years out of the program, which will be nice. So there'll be a little cost for the digital platform every year, but not anything like that. Don't record this, I'm just
So again, I'm
Yes.
just seeking confirmation. The curriculum materials and the adoption that you're seeking to move forward are standards aligned.
Yeah, and that's really the thing that we looked for. And one of the other things you always look for when you're doing curriculum review is how well aligned, what's out there that's really well aligned. Companies were behind the 8 ball with this. To find one that was mostly NGSS aligned and STEELS aligned was really a treat for us.
And you said that once we have some access per the policy, it'll be available for review.
Yeah, and that'll be for 30 days. I think it'll be what's the date on Monday, the 25th? So it'll be available if I can get it up tomorrow, because it has to be a full 30 days. So I'll get it up tomorrow if I can, or Monday, and then it'll be on display for 30 days, and then it'll be on the April 24th board agenda with your permission.
How is that communicated that it's available?
It's on the website. It'll be in these minutes, and so that's how folks know. The other things that we're looking to adopt tonight, world language. What we did a number of years ago, gosh, before I even started here, world language, really dynamic group of teachers who have worked really hard to get their vision into place. And so their vision was to be able to offer up to a level 5 AP at the high school. In order to do that, you need to start in the middle school. So we've been doing 8th grade world language for 2 years now. They want to introduce a class in 7th grade, which they call it a flex class. So they get a look at how world language works, how to learn world language, looking at cultures and customs and things like that. That's kind of that introduction to how do you learn a foreign language. So that'll be a new course starting next year in 7th grade. Most, if not all, students will take it. They'll be looking at Spanish, French, and German, because we offer all of those, not specifically teaching the language, because that would have been a nightmare to find somebody who is certified to teach all 3 of those. But when we check with PDE, someone who's doing an introductory world language course just needs to have a world language certification. So we're clear in that respect. It'll be one of those 22-day rotations at the middle school. The girls have done a tremendous job writing. What they really need are just a couple of extra textbooks, which they already own, so that's through Amazon. And then some other, I just want to read to you some of the requests. These things definitely don't go on display because they're things like, let me read them to you. Classroom set of, it's Spanish motivational stickers. It's reward stickers in Spanish. It's looking at like sets of crayons and different supplies that they need. And then the textbook is in here for German. And then additionally, some of the other books that they're getting from Teacher Discovery are pronouns, first person present, incentives, classroom decor, things like that, to really get a world language classroom started. The total cost for all of that is the $1,263.05. Again, sometimes with shipping that goes up a little bit, we do try to calculate that in, but that's basically where we'll be. Then I put miscellaneous supplies because with NGSS, as we did in 6 through 12, sometimes we do need to get other markers or other protractors or rulers or things like that. In addition, we did some other curriculum review this year in the area of, what's Emily's class, Emily Barker? Oh, TV and studio, thank you. It's been a long day. TV studio, TV production, and so there are some supplies there that are needed. I can get you, once I can get into my email, I feel terrible saying that, but that's where all of this is. I have learned my lesson. I will print everything from now on, or I will be in Google. I have definitely learned my lesson. But those, I just wanted to not leave that out because I know there will be some additional cost. And to the best of my ability to do math in my head and remember all of the emails, that's about the amount that we were there. Again, looking at the amount that we have still in the accounts, it's just under $400,000. So we're totally covered. That's what we anticipated happening. Of course, you always try to get away a little cheaper, but knowing a K to 5, that's K 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a big implementation, which is why you see that number over $200,000.
Did you, I don't think you piloted the world language or the, anything else. Did you pilot the Amplify?
No, we did not pilot. We've kind of gotten out of the practice of piloting because generally you do more than one and then the teachers are like, no, we each like that one. And it delays adoption for about a year to kind of do that out. So I've never done a pilot here. I don't know when we
I did not, but prior to me, there was a pilot, so that would have been 2012, 13, 14-ish. They piloted ELA and math at K to 5 before they selected everyday math and benchmark literacy. I can't speak to that. Dr. King was here.
So I do want to say, as we come to the end of the curriculum writing cycle for this school year, it's still March, there is still some work to be done. We generally take some time in May and June and roll out what the teachers have done, so nobody's going off into summer not realizing what's ahead of them for the following year. The teachers have done a tremendous job, not only in science, but in all of the areas. where we're kind of refining and rewriting and making sure we're covering all of our bases. I would like to say also that one of the things that we implemented at the beginning of this year, and I think informally prior to that, but at the beginning of this year, we had all the curriculum chairs work with their departments to say, is this the curriculum that you're teaching, right? Is the written the taught? This is a constant battle in education. Is the written curriculum the taught curriculum? And so department chairs did a really nice job of working with their departments. We have all of the links to the most current curriculum on a particular document. And before we can make any changes to assessment, before we can make any changes, and we do make changes, right? You discover every year, this worked better than that, and this worked better than this, and we'd like to tweak that a little. That we need to have a process to go through that and amplify, while Sarah and I are looking, not amplify, embark, BYOC. So we have a chance to see that before it goes in, and then also the assessments, before they're updated at all, and link it, have to come through me. And that's not been a popular move, and that's because teachers take what they do very personally, and they do a good job with it. But we've got to know that what's in this link that is the written curriculum is also the taught curriculum, and we're kind of all in the know. So we'll start each year, as we did this year, going through that process of making sure that link is updated and the work has been done. Anything they wanted to change has been approved. Everything's in link in the right way. So when we do this work, we do it right. They have been so patient with all of the things that I say, ooh, tweak, and by the time we get it done, we're very excited to implement it, and we want to make sure that if there are any changes done after the approval process, that it's done through the same means, same venue. I just want to give a big shout out to all the teachers. They did a super job.
And I'm wondering how excited K-5 Science was, because just, you may not know, and maybe you don't, but when they were up previous in the cycle, they did not move forward because the year before they had deployed everyday math and benchmark literacy simultaneously, and they had been using FOSS-Kids forever and ever, and they're like, please let us change, and we just could not introduce a new program. So I don't know if they are excited, but I would imagine.
What's nice, and because it's not only new materials, but it's new standards, so we've had the opportunity, the IU has had several workshops and opportunities to welcome teachers, to get them ready for these new standards. Even on April 28th or 23rd, which is coming up as our in-service day, there's a huge MCIU workshop where they have just a number of different people going and seeing how to implement and what it looks like. We have a good chunk of teachers going to that, and they're very excited to engage, and most of them have found stuff on their own to engage in this year. So they're super excited. We just want to make sure they get, we did, in January, I did a little bit of an introduction for them on what's the difference between NGSS and what we've been doing, or STEELS and what we've been doing. So they have a little bit of an intro. I'm sorry.
It's okay. When you change a curriculum like this, how long, like, if you were to take on Amplify, how long do you think that marriage would last?
So generally, the curriculum review cycle dictates the next time we look at that, and that's generally a 5 to 6 year rotation. If there's a need to look due to changing standards or some other issue, we can certainly do it earlier. But the way that we have paced out the curriculum review cycle with the curriculum budget helps us to stay in line with these big types of purchases. Next year, we'll be getting ready to do ELA, and that's gonna make this look super great. That's a lot of money when you redo a K-5 ELA program. So we try to space that out. So we might even maybe want to do it a little bit earlier, but the budget might not allow for that to happen. That's generally about a 5-year process.
Did you review a comparable program?
We looked at a bunch of them. We started our work in the summertime. I can share that with you.
And what was like your second best, second choice?
I can pull that up.
If you can bring it up.
I don't know if I have, I can tell you the other ones that we looked at. I have it right here. I just needed to get there. We looked at, I gotta go down to the bottom. So we started in the summertime, and we were looking at what have we been using that works? We had 2 supplemental programs, Gizmos, which was called Science for Us, K-3 supplemental, paid a lot of money for that. It was first a grant, and then we paid Mystery Science is another one that we had been looking at that does some supplemental pieces. So we looked at Discovery K-12. We looked at FOSS, Next Generation. No one was really excited to hear FOSS again. We looked at it. We looked at TCI, which is the name of the company. I don't know what it stands for. I forget. And then Amplify K-8. We also looked at Little Science Thinkers, which is our K-2 program that we got when we went to full day K. So having had presentations for all of those on, I think it was July 25th, according to this. We also used a rubric. The things that we were looking at was it hands-on? Does it come with prepared lessons and slides? Is it aligned with NGSS, PA Steels? How high quality are the assessments? Do they have differentiated aspects, including leveled readers? And how well would it integrate with ELA, math, and social studies? I will tell you, one of the things that we love about Amplify is the number of trade books that come with it. We have the opportunity to do a lot of reading for content using our science books, and they have different levels for students to access them in.
Are those consumables, or what do you mean?
So they're just regular books. So it's a book about frogs, or a book about animals, or a book, yeah. So, but there's a lot of them that come with K and 1 and 2 and 3.
Not a workbook.
Not a workbook, no. They might have workbooks, but we're excited to use the actual reader, that authentic text in our science classes.
So that would clearly support the differentiation with our kids.
Yeah. So each one of the people on the committee, we had 2 teachers doing K, 2 teachers doing 1, 1 doing 2, 1 doing 3, 2 at 4, and 2 at 5. So that was the committee. Sarah was there, I was there, and we looked at all these products together. And we always listen for how it will be for our special education students, because that's Carol's big concern.
Well, the responsibility is to
Yes.
access
Yeah.
to standards-based materials.
Okay, any questions for me? That's a lot of money to ask for. I just want to tell you that the process that we go through is very rigorous, and the teachers really know what they want when they want it, and I'm excited to be able to bring it to them. They kept saying, how much does it cost? I said, stop, but I can't look at that yet. That's for me to worry about later. Let's worry about what we like, what we think will be good for kids, and then we can look at the cost later. So now we're looking at it later.
Any other questions?
I'm just gonna grab something from my office, sorry.
All right, so I wanted to take the opportunity to review another program.
Kim, are you asking for
Oh.
a motion for them
Oh,
to be approved?
if that was, if we don't have anything that happens within 30 days to, yes, be able to put that on.
Put it on the April
Yes, on the
24th
April
agenda?
24th. Mhm,
So
sorry.
we need a motion here in order to?
Yes.
Okay.
And we can, I think we'd have to do it.
Yeah, great. All right, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Great. Any discussion?
I personally would like a little time to look through the lessons. Like she said, she didn't see in the lessons anything that stood out as being like politically, you know.
No, I saw the lessons, I didn't look at their DEI
Their-
statement. Yeah.
Their missions, she didn't look at the mission statement, they studied this extensively, so I would like a little more time to look at it.
So what do you mean by that?
I would like
So
to.
the third, like the 30 days?
So does that, I mean, I think that could work.
Yeah, so it'll be the 30 days.
So 2 affirmatives moves it forward, but it would be April. So it wouldn't be,
I think that would work, yeah. Thank you.
So it will be forward in April.
April
For the
24th. We meet
workshop.
again on the 18th, so
Right,
if
right.
there's been any public
we
comment,
can
I can
follow
share
up. I'll
it.
put it back on the agenda.
I see they have a lot of links, like, I'm perfectly happy to look through, just.
Is there a reason to get it on sooner? Because the normal process would be after the April meeting to put it on the May
I
board
can't.
meeting.
The reason to get it on in April is to get ordering and get it here and give it to the teachers to look over for the summertime, if we can get it in that time frame.
So the next meeting you said was the 18th?
Yeah. April 18th is the next EPS meeting, and then it would hopefully move forward.
So
on
that may
April
not be 30, but that'll be a good chunk of 30.
Yeah, up to the 18th will not be quite 30,
Have
but
it
the
back on this
24th
agenda
is.
the next time, and then if you want to approve it to move a week later to the workshop.
Gotcha.
That would be the time frame, I would think, unless,
Well, we're approved because,
I got you.
yeah.
Okay.
so if you already, if two of three are moving
Yeah.
forward, that's at least the timeline. I
But
guess.
we'll keep it on the 18th agenda, just
Okay.
to be able to share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. we can
Sorry, I
talk
just was
about
gonna go grab something from my office, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrea,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one thing I didn't bring in.
I didn't know.
it. Typically, that's what- Back to.
All right, so Amy had the opportunity to talk about our early intervention kiddos. I wanted to talk about another group of students in our district, our English language learners. Every district, every public district in the state of Pennsylvania has an English language development program, and those are for our kids who are learning English as their second language. So as we do in education, we have a million different acronyms, and so I wanted to acclimate you with the ESL acronyms or the ELD acronyms. So an EL is an English learner, and actually you guys are lucky because our admin team had to figure these all out. We quizzed them, and some did better than others. But the EL refers to an English language learner. So if you're a student who comes into our district upon enrollment and you indicate that there is another language other than English spoken in your home, you are further screened to determine your language proficiency. And so if it is determined that you are learning English as your second language, you become an EL. And I'm sorry, my spacing is off a little bit from my plus sign, but an EL is taught by an ESL teacher. And an ESL teacher is a teacher who is highly qualified and certified to teach students that are learning English as their second language. And what they teach is ELD, which is English Language Development. And so all of those things together make the LIEP, which is the Language Instruction Education Program, which is our district-wide language acquisition program. And so the state of Pennsylvania mandates that we have an LIEP, not to be confused with a special education IEP or a GIEP. Of all the acronyms we can make, of course, we threw the IEP in there. So that's just a little bit of an overview of how those pieces fit together to make our English language development program. We are part of a consortium with the IU that supports the English language development programs of county school districts. And as part of the IU, we have 3 different goal areas that we work towards as part of our consortium. The first one is parent and family engagement, and that's really just for an opportunity to have outreach to our families of specifically of English language learning students. We find that these parents, historically are not as involved in school as we would want them to be, and we know that parent involvement is critical to student success. So we do have a parent outreach and family engagement goal. We have a goal for professional development for our EL staff, but also for the district staff as a whole. And then also student achievement. So students will make adequate language acquisition progress as measured by criteria set forth by the state. So those are the 3 goals that my department works towards annually as part of our participation in the consortium. Our Ls can be on 6 different levels. So a brand new student coming to the country or with limited English proficiency is considered a level 1 or an entering L. I can tell you this year at Upper Perk we have 12 students that are level 1 Ls. We had our first true newcomer L, brand new to the country 2 school years ago, a young man from Burma. So brand new to our country, and so we got to experience all of the things that go on with a young student coming in from Burma. We had a young girl this year from the Ukraine, and being able to support them as they come into our country is critical. So we have our level 1 kids, we have 12 students. Level 2 beginning, so they're starting to really get that conversational English. They're beginning to engage academically more with their peers. That's 12 kids. We have 16 kids at level 3, which is developing, and then level 4, which is expanding, and then level 5 is bridging. We have 2 students there. Reaching means the student is just about to English language proficiency, just like a fluent English speaker, if not all the way there. Students between level 4 and level 5 typically reclassify from the program, which was the old way of saying exit the program. They reclassify. So that's why you see the numbers kind of drop down, because between level 4 and 5, they typically reclassify and exit the program that way. So that's the breakdown of our kids at Upper Perk. Now those levels are important, and they come to us from WIDA, which is the nationwide ESL consortium that provides a lot of our resources, but they provide us with these really great scales called can-do descriptors. And so what they tell us is what students can do at that level, what you can expect from a student coming into your classroom at a level 1 or a level 2, ways in which you can engage them, conversationally, academically, to support them as they build that linguistic skill. All right, want to go to the next slide? I just wanted to show you a little bit of a representation of where our students come from. We have a large population of students that, it didn't pop, but China, Russia, we have a very large population from India and Pakistan. We have students from Guatemala and Ecuador, our friend from Burma, we have a family from Italy, a family from Greece, 2 from the Ukraine. So we have a representation, Korea, we have a representation from across the globe, which is really cool. There's a couple languages, the students coming with languages this year that I'd never heard of before. So it's really neat to learn about them and their background and their cultures and to get to know their family. So I just want to show you a little bit of a representation of where our kids come from. Go ahead. So our program, ESL is a little bit different in that it offers linguistic support. So we do have curriculum resources. A couple of years ago, we adopted the National Geographic curriculum. It's called Look. And there's a couple different versions of it. There's Look, there's Edge, there's Inside the USA, and they correlate with, we have the Look resources, but they correlate with a student's language proficiency. Now, our teachers have the options to use this or not. It really depends on what the student needs and where they're at. We have one teacher that services our learners K to 4, another teacher 5 to 8, and then 2 that split the high school. So they will push into those classrooms or they'll pull the students out, again, depending on what the students need. Oftentimes, as we get up to those secondary levels of learning, especially with our higher level Ls, they do a lot of classroom and academic support. So we do have this National Geographic series. It's beautiful. I've always been so impressed by the pictures and the resources, but it really is just kind of an English crash course. It goes through a lot of our grammar, it goes through sentence structure, vocabulary, things like that, if the student needs it. We also have a program called Lexia English, so if you have students at the lower level, you'll recognize Lexia. Lexia English is just an add-on to that focuses on English language acquisition. So that's something that we give specifically our newcomer Ls. We also have core curriculum overlays. So one of our ESL teachers at the middle level has been working on overlays that can modify some of our assessments and things to make them more accessible for our Ls who need some of that linguistic support. It's important to note that academic standards do not change. They don't change for special education learners. They don't change for learners who have English as their second language. So it's important for us to build in those supports academically so they can attend to the content and not get a hurdle with the language. We assess our Ls with the WIDA assessment. The WIDA assessment looks at the reading, writing, speaking, and listening domains. That's given in January and February. It's given one-on-one to our kids. Our teachers, obviously, they administer it. And it just shows their progression in English language proficiency. It is one of the data points that we use in consideration for reclassification. It's that plus teacher feedback and rubrics to make sure that the student is prepared to reclassify out of the program or not. And so we're really looking forward to our results being available in mid-May. At this point, we're looking for probably 3 to 4 of our 49 to be reclassified, which is exciting for them.
How many? Say that again, I'm sorry.
3 to 4 of our 49. I can tell you that when I assumed the ESL department, when was that, 2 or 3 years ago, I think we had 20 Ls district-wide. We're now pushing 50, which is, I talked to my colleagues at the IU, and they've got hundreds of learners with this classification. But for us at Upper Perk, 50 is a lot, and they're a diverse bunch and across the spectrum of language development. So it's a really great program that we're very proud of.
And I think, the board saw in finance last week that there was, in the personnel line, a position related to ESL. Because, as you saw, it's not just the number, it's also the level. And our commitment to, the language development part of our LIMP program. There's also significant cultural understandings that need to happen for those students, and how are we engaging them, how are we, helping them navigate an environment where they don't speak the same language, which is, must be difficult. I don't know that feeling, but it must be difficult. And so, other ways of supporting Ls in school as well as their families in a community where they might not be able to navigate or have a language barrier. So lots of conversations around supporting those students in particular, as well as their families in the community.
Do we support foreign exchange students in this
We do,
district?
we have.
And is that part of your 49, or is that not? Okay.
No, I mean, we do offer, if we do have a foreign exchange student that comes in with some limited English proficiency, we do offer them supports if we're able to, but no, 49 are our district
Okay.
kids.
Oh, side note, I attended a really lovely event today where I work. It was a cultural fair, it was really beautiful, and I learned something. You're not supposed to say the Ukraine anymore. It's just Ukraine. Since they're separate, the Ukrainian would be offended.
Oh, that's good to know.
Words matter, so.
Yeah, for sure,
I thought I
yeah.
would,
No, I appreciate
share
that,
with
thank you.
especially.
I appreciate that, yeah, thank you. And I, you know,
Inadvertently.
no, I don't want to, you know, that's definitely not the goal.
So I learned that, I was like, okay, stop with the Ukraine, it's just Ukraine.
And
Because that was when they were connected, they want
That's good
to
to
be
know.
recognized as. So.
And to Dr. Farina's point, you know, it's important that we have the staff to be able to support these, our students, especially those that are coming in brand new. Things we take for granted, like we had a student who was unsure how to use a school bus. They were used to public transportation in their native country, so they were used to being able to stand up and walk around and get off when they didn't understand. And so, right, and so it's those little pieces that we continuously have to educate ourselves on, which is part of that.
And there has been dialogue about supporting classroom teachers, you know, K to 12, linguistically, culturally, so they understand how to support students, because if they're coming from a different country, they may have different, you know, cultural components that we take for granted. And so that acknowledgement and understanding, you know, inadvertently demanding eye contact. Every culture does not do that.
Right.
And so there is value to understanding, you know, the students that are seated in front of us.
Spend a lot of time in healthcare as well.
I would imagine any sort of, you know, human profession, you know, that's probably very important.
So Sarah, do you do any kind of like target setting or goal setting for how many students you want to have move to the next level, you know, per review, or is it, or do you track that just to see how the programs?
Yeah, we track that. So we're looking for growth, you know, year over year. Thankfully, we've seen growth on just about 100% of our kids over the last 3 years since I've assumed the program. ESL 2 is a little bit different, where students kind of absorb language at their own pace.
Sure.
So it really depends on a lot of factors. So like, you know, if we have students who are coming in K who don't have a solid foundation in their native language, they are definitely not going to advance levels or absorb it nearly as fast. So, or even, you know, we have students coming in the middle level who don't have fluency in their native language, and so it's very difficult. So what we look for growth overall. So, you know, if we have time at the end of the year, I definitely like to report on our WIDA scores. Because I'm very proud of the progress our department has made. Our kids are really making some nice strides, so.
Yeah, and from a school performance, for districts that have, you know, 20 or more students in an assessment grade, it's included in our data. But annually, when our principals come to present it, we never really hit that 20 per grade. But we may someday. You know, our colleagues in the county have lots more students and typically are looking at that data more frequently.
Our enrollment's more than doubled, but.
I don't know if 20 per grade.
It's not many, but it is a change in our system, and it's something we've had to be responsive to, so.
Well, and the levels were a big change for
Yes.
us. The number
Yeah.
of students and the lower level really caused our teachers to say help. And
Yeah.
it was nice that we had Sarah and some folks on staff who could really support the teachers. That's part of the planning going forward too. That's a lot to learn. That's good.
Any other questions?
It's just one, it's not like it's just one country.
Right.
Right, I mean,
One country.
so you come from, there's a
49 kids, 49 countries.
It's a huge representation, and even, you know, there's a huge representation that we have. And so our teachers are natural nurturers, and when you see a young person coming into your classroom that you know not only is nervous because they're in a new place, they don't speak the language, and you can't communicate with them, our teachers immediately want to nurture and support it. So we want to make sure we have the resources for them. And so we're continuing to evolve the program. It's just like EI, it's kind of difficult to anticipate who's coming and when. So we prepare as best we can and hope that we have enough resources, or we can respond quickly.
Yeah, if I may, because, and I apologize, there was a situation that I deal with, so I apologize for rushing and seeming, hurried, but I do just want to add one more thing about EI. Those transition meetings that we have, it's really it's our families who have students with disabilities entering kindergarten, their first introduction to the school district. In some cases, they might have other students who attend here, but, so it's just a really important opportunity to, show them who we are and show them, how we can support their children and their family. So I apologize for rushing. It's not what I wanted to do because it's very important to me, but anyway. That's all I wanted to add.
All right. That covers everything on the agenda. Were there any other items that anybody wanted to bring up? No? All right.
I just wanted to remind us
Yes.
again that learning model that we always look at when we're trying to build programs for students. I also updated the slide. We are going to have Angela Traub next month, to talk about what's been happening with Act 389 and college and career readiness at the high school. And then
I went to parent college night.
Wasn't it
It was
great?
good. I mean, no electronics, but it was good.
Yeah, Angela was like, "You felt so old school, no PowerPoint,
You know what she
no
said?
nothing."
She goes, "Oh my gosh, it's so old school. It's like 1992." I was like,
It was old school.
Did someone throw something
go
at
back
that
a
point?
little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I still say 1970, right? Like that.
Yeah.
And then just to put the K-5 science curriculum back on there, we'll also add a WIDA update in May.
Yep.
We have the scores. Will we
Yep.
have them then?
We should, we're anticipating them the first week of May, so
Okay,
as long as they
good.
come in on time, we'll have them. Fingers crossed.
I just was able to open my Amplify quote. It's 224. It's lower.
Oh, yes. Good job.
Saving money.
Good job.
All right.
I can open emails. Like, that's a miracle.
Oh.
Am I not supposed to be? Okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be. Never mind, never mind. Old ones, there's nothing new in there, but it's old. It's old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It still exists.
There's so
Yeah.
much stuff in there that I need if I can open it.
Yeah.
All right, so if nothing else, next meeting's April 18th. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
very
Thank you
much,
guys for your
everyone.
support.
Have a great evening.
I do have, if anybody wants this is the Amplify. It's the crossover between the steel standards and ours. This is an unmarked